Hello, good morning, or whatever time it is where you're at. Today, I just wanted to share a little insight I had when I was meditating. I brought my very long morning meditations back into my life. Um, what I do is I meditate for a long time, and then I do 3 pages stream of consciousness writing afterwards to kind of just work through whatever insights, developments, that I had. Today, a big one I had was I'm finally bringing a sense of intention to my meditations to connect to my depth, to connect to my space of being. And I know so much of meditation is like not really bringing intention to it. You don't want to really do anything at all. You just kind of want to sit there and do absolutely nothing. That's the most powerful meditation, is when you just sit there and you just fully allow. You just literally listen to silence and allow and don't do anything at all. For me, I found, at least, those are the most powerful meditations. And so yeah, we want to kind of let go of intention, because that's what meditation's all about. It's all about just surrendering and allowing, right? But there is this movement, this natural movement when we have a lot to feel in the body that likes to pull us into the mind. And I realized I've been doing these long meditations, 1 hour plus meditations again in the morning today was like my 13th day in a row again. So I noticed for at least the first week, 10 days, I was spending a lot of time in the mind. Really I was spending so much time in meditation just waiting for it to be over so I could go try to fulfill myself with all these other distractions and stimulations and instant gratification. And finally, these last couple days, I've really felt this movement in me that's really wanting to connect to my space of being, to my true depth, and realizing that no matter what we do from our space of being and our true depth, it's fulfilling, it's satisfying, it's complete. It's a complete experience in and of itself. It doesn't matter what we're doing. We could just be literally sitting there watching the cats play. Or we could be creating our next masterpiece, something big, something small. It doesn't matter. It all feels so complete when we are moving from a place of being connected to our depth. But conversely, and what I was doing for a while there, is if we're just like trying to go to waiting for the next thing to fulfill us. Nothing's going to be complete when we're not moving from our natural depth, from our true depth of being. Like nothing's going to feel satisfying, and nothing's ever going to be enough. No matter how amazing of a thing we create, or however whatever it is for you, like however many likes we get for something we did, it's never going to feel like enough. And the reason is we're doing these things as a way to try to compensate for the lack of connection we have for our depth, lack of connection we have to our depth, to our true nature, to our space of being. And so nothing we can ever do will ever compensate for not having a connection to our depth. And I realized, and that after you start meditating a while again and really sinking into beingness, you start coming back to this natural place of, oh yeah, it doesn't really matter what I'm out here doing, reaching for, grasping for. It's never going to be satisfying if I'm not connected to my depth. And so these last couple days of meditation, I've really had an intention going into the meditation of, all right, I'm going to be willing to unhook from my mind, to unhook from thought, to really feel what's going on in here. And so today, for long stretches, I would have both my hands just like this, my left hand on my heart, my right hand on my solar plexus. And that was bringing my consciousness back into feeling, back into presence, back into depth. Because it's hard to be in a really deep place when we're in the mind, right? When we're just waiting and thinking thoughts and we're living through thought forms. Like, no matter what the thought forms are, living through thought forms is always a very shallow experience. It's never satisfying. It just isn't very alive. But when we can feel into the present moment, when we can be with feelings, even if they're hard to feel, we start falling into this place of our space of being. And from that place, everything feels so alive. You don't even have to be doing anything. You're just connected to your natural depth. And then it's not about like so often when we're in the mind, we just, like I was saying, we want to go create something to compensate for this lack of connection we have to ourselves, you know, for this emptiness we feel or whatever. But from the space of being, from our true depth, we're not going out to create something for any type of compensation that we feel lacking. We're just allowing that connection to lead and to create all on its own, whatever it wants. Whether that's creating something or not, or whatever type of movement it is, it really doesn't matter when we're connected to our depth of being. And when we're connected to our depth, we always know the next thing to do. It's always so self-evident. It's so obvious, you know. It's just like life unveils the next movement in our life so seamlessly and naturally. And when we're in the mind, we can be just spinning and spinning and spinning, and like, do I go do this now, or do I do this? And we can have this indecision, indecisiveness. It's because we're not connected to who we really are. We're connected to all of these programs, all of these old conditioning beliefs and all this stuff, and they're all these different voices, and they're fighting one another, and it can get really noisy, right? But when we're connected to our depth of being, it's a movement. It's like this silent but powerful movement within us that pulls us. We don't really even have to do much. We just kind of let it live through us as us. And it's just a beautiful movement. And one thing I want to mention at the end of this video about meditation is you might be surrendering really deep into the present moment. You might start to feel this connection to your space of being. You might like feel this just opening. And then all of a sudden, an old pattern, probably a fear pattern, will come up and clamp that down, shut it down, and you'll go right back up into your mind. You know, it's because this old pattern doesn't feel comfortable with this depth emerging, with you making contact with your true nature. Because when you do this old pattern that you used to, you know, it used to feed you something, right? Some emotional stimulation or something. Like a lot of us, you know, when we have a lot of these patterns alive in us, the fear patterns, they kind of used to be our food for a long time, our nutrients. So when we're opening to our space of being, we're starting to connect with this new more fulfilling nutrients, like this nutrients of a source. And so we're not gonna, and when we get more deeply rooted and connected to this nutrients, to source energy, we don't have as much of a need for the fear patterns, the patterns of lack, the patterns of unworthiness, the patterns that used to kind of feed us, right? And so these patterns will come up and they'll try to clamp that down, like, no, don't discover that, because it's kind of the death knell for that pattern. So just the best way to work with this is I found myself today getting a little frustrated at that pattern that kept coming in and be like, no, don't make connection with your true nature. But when we're frustrated with the pattern, we know we're back in the mind. Pure awareness never gets frustrated with anything. It doesn't mind, pure awareness doesn't mind when that pattern comes up. When we're oriented as pure awareness, when that pattern comes up that tries to clamp us down from going deep within, there's a gentleness there. There's a patience. There's a willingness just to sit with that pattern and to kind of reparent it. And that's the movement. So if you're going deep within and you feel yourself letting go and you're going into this new beautiful place, you're feeling more deeply connected to yourself than ever, and then this old fear pattern comes up and grabs you, takes you back into the mind. In that moment, see how willing you can be to just be like, gentle. Hey, it's okay. I love you. Kind of reparent the pattern, soothe it. Everything's okay. We're safe. And that's how you'll find that's how you deepen back into your depth more quickly. But if it comes up and you get frustrated, gosh dang it, what? And now you're in a fight with it. Now you're back in all those voices, right? Now you've become the pattern. But if the pattern comes up and you just hold space for it and love it, you haven't become the pattern again. You've simply just allowed that pattern to come up, to have its expression. You're not fighting with it, you're flowing with. And you'll notice you'll flow right back into your depth again. And then that pattern just falls away. But if we fight it, then it kind of stays there, then we're the pattern, and then it can be kind of more of a messy ordeal. Hey, but that's okay, that happens. And if that happens, it's okay. Let go of the mess. Know that it's okay that it got a little messy. You know, we need it to be that pattern for a second to feel how unfulfilling it is to be a fear pattern or a lack-based pattern or any type of thought pattern. And now back to our true nature, back to letting go, back to doing absolutely nothing and allowing the truth of who we are to emerge and to allow that to start living through us as us. So I hope this was helpful for you guys today. Sending you all lots of love, lots of compassion, and just so much peace. This is, as light workers, I feel what we're being called to do right now is to cultivate this connection to our depths so that we can bring peace through in everything that we do, no matter how seemingly significant or insignificant. If we're bringing peace through, it's really beautiful, regardless of the movement. So I love you all, and I will see you in the next video. Namaste.